Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel and to this video. If it's your first time here, my name's Allie Wilkins. I'm so glad that you found this video and I hope you enjoy it. And if you're coming back, welcome back. On this channel, we talk all about the ancient feminine. We talk about our soul mission. We talk about a lot of different pieces around energetic technology and stuff like that. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like that. Today, we're going to continue our conversation around the dark feminine. So this year it's so interesting and I'm really just like fascinated about what's happening in relation to the dark feminine, because it's like there's been another door opened where we're collectively ready to step into a deeper embodiment of her. And I've been working with the dark feminine with students and clients for years now. And every year there's a specific deepening that we're available for. But this year it's like deeper than it's a bigger shift than we've experienced in the last several years. And I'm really excited about it. So all of my recent videos on the dark feminine, you'll see I have a whole dark feminine playlist that I do every year before Realm of the Dark Feminine opens. You'll see the videos that I most recently did talk about that, the next iteration of the dark feminine. So I'll tag that up here. If you haven't watched that video yet, definitely do. And then I'm also going to be hosting a free masterclass on Sunday, August 17th, where we're going to talk about the evolution of the dark feminine. So we're going to go even deeper into that conversation. We're going to do an Akashic Records journey that will help you to activate some of this on an energetic level. So it's going to be really, really fun. I hope to see you there. I hope you join. And then, of course, Realm of the Dark Feminine will be starting on September 1st, where we go, it's a 3-month experience with the dark feminine, really learning how to steward her in her maturity and integrity and in mastery. So I can't wait. This will be the 3rd year I'm running it. But today we're going to talk about what to expect when you get into your dark feminine energy, when you activate her in your life, because it's not rainbows and butterflies for sure. And I want to just kind of give you this as a PSA. When you activate your dark feminine, it's one of those things that initially it's like you've just got to rip the band-aid off, and it can be really difficult. It can be hard, but the results that come from that are so worth it. But I want you to be prepared for what might happen. This, of course, will differ based on like the layer that you're integrating her, what you might particularly be working with her around. But now I've integrated the dark feminine on many different levels. I've been doing this work for about 5 years, and I was sort of born with certain elements of the dark feminine just really, really there. And so I'm very familiar with some of this myself, but I've also worked with clients in my business for the last 8 years, but really in the last 5 years, where I've watched them integrate this, and I can see patterns in what happens. I can see that there are some things that are just a part of it and just come with it. And so I want to talk to you about what some of those things are, so you know what to expect and you can kind of prepare yourself. So the first thing that you can expect, people are going to be triggered. There will be people in your life who are triggered because you're shifting and changing into something that is going to inherently ask them to show up in a different way. And it's also going to be reflecting to them a mirror of where they may not be holding as much power or as much freedom or as much sovereignty in a certain area. For example, if you start to show up in higher authenticity, higher expression, unapologetically, if someone else is more muted in that area, they might make you wrong for it. They might make you like bad for it. Instead of just seeing that, oh, this is actually just reflecting to me where I'm shackled, where I'm not free in my own energy, where I'm still caged by caring about approval from other people, where I need validation. And so I'm still stifling myself. Your reflection of that to me is going to trigger me, because that person might not be ready to embody that themselves. So the first thing you need to understand is some people are absolutely going to be triggered. And most of the time that doesn't have anything to do with you. Some of the time it might, because when we're learning how to work with the dark feminine, we have to learn how to, for example, tell the truth in a way that is effective. A lot of people, when they step in, hi, this was me. A lot of people, like for me, learning how to tell the truth in an effective way that creates the outcome I want, that is neutral, not coming from a heated place. This was years of work for me to learn how to do. And this is one of the things that I teach in Realm of the Dark Feminine. We do an entire archetype called the Truth Teller, that this is one of the parts that we talk about a lot. So sometimes people might be triggered because of the way that you're coming at them and not necessarily about the change that's happening. But sometimes, and I would say this is a very common thing, people are going to be triggered or going to be butthurt or whatever about the shift that you're making because it demands or it asks them to look at where they're not owning that energy in themselves. Sometimes it's just someone might be triggered because it's reflecting their own insecurity or their own unwillingness to show up in a certain way. It has nothing to do with you. But like I said, sometimes it might just be in the delivery as well, and we have to be willing to look at that. The second thing that you can expect, this is for sure going to happen, it will be to different degrees depending on what layer of the dark feminine you're activating and remembering. You're gonna have grief or rage, or both. A lot of the people that I work with are priestesses, are old souls. Everybody I work with basically is an old soul. You're probably an old soul if you're watching this. I would bet on that. A lot of the time, what can happen first, what can surface first with the dark feminine can be a deep grief or suffering around the remembrance of the dropping of the feminine. Like when we go back 5,000 plus years and remember how women used to be treated, how priestesses were seen, that women were seen basically as gods. They were almost worshipped essentially. Women, if anyone were ever to abuse or hurt a woman, they would have been exiled from their civilization. Like that never would have been tolerated. And then to see like where we're at today, but even like the times of the priestess, there's a lot of trauma. If you have other lifetimes as a priestess and you remember what actually happened, where the priestesses lost their reverence and lost their respect and roles, and then when the Christian and really patriarchal religion came into play, like that drop, the fact that the masculine collective allowed that to happen, and like this is all part of the fall of consciousness. It's not on one group. However, women suffered more in that initial fall. When we remember the intricacies of what happened, or even just notice how we feel dropped by the masculine in general, but especially historically, like it's painful, and there might be a lot of grief and rage that comes up with that. But also this might be on a more present level. You might have something that happens. This also happened to me, in deeper layer of my dark feminine came out when I experienced like a really deep betrayal in a level that was like inhumane. And I had so much rage of like, how can you even treat another human in this way, let alone a woman? How can you treat someone this way? And I had a lot of rage emerge that was from that, but it was also rooted in much deeper things in relation to what I was just talking about. So you might have that emerge from a remembrance of what has happened over time, and just in general to the dark feminine, like being buried, being suppressed under the threat of death. That's the only reason that the dark feminine, that these aspects of our power were buried, because we were threatened by death. Otherwise, that never would have been able to happen. It happened through force. So you're going to experience a level of grief and rage that's uncomfortable. That being said, this is really going to be dependent on the level of the dark feminine that you're integrating, and like which aspect. Like, are you integrating power? Are you integrating sensuality or sexuality? Are you integrating more of a collective, like feminine masculine thing? Like, and you don't need to mentally understand this. I just want to give you, like, not everyone who is, like, for example, if you're removing your good girl mask, which is like a big ass thing, there's not really that much grief. Probably there might be some, but it won't be to the same level as some of the other things I just expressed. So different levels for different things we're working on, because basically we're going to be remembering aspects of the dark feminine for the rest of our lives. I teach this to my students. We have no understanding of the power of the feminine because we have lost so much of it. We don't have role models of what the full feminine, like what Inanna would have been like, or what like Hathor, or these deities that we look at as goddesses, but like what women in their full power would have looked like. We do not have representations of this. And it's kind of the same thing as that I talk about sometimes with like our intuition. We're babies. We're just recovering our telepathic abilities. Like most people don't even have telepathic abilities at this point, you know. We're really in the stage 1 of remembering so much of our power. And so we're going to be integrating the dark feminine for our whole lives. We're going to be collectively integrating different elements, and there will be different things that come with each of those different elements. So grief and rage, expect it. It's going to come. Number 3, you're going to see people's capacity for growth in a very clear way, because the dark feminine, we have been trained to reject and to suppress, because a lot of the time she mirrors to us our genuine issues. She mirrors to us where we're in our smallness, where we are shackled. And so when you start embodying that energy, you don't even have to say anything to anyone else. That is going to be reflected back to them. There doesn't even need to be a conversation had about it, or you don't need to tell them like what their smallness is. They're going to feel it just in your presence from how you show up and how you embody it. Even if that's not your intention, like it's going to happen. So you're going to see where people aren't willing to step into that. And a lot of the time that's going to be from kind of like the point number 1, people are going to be triggered, and they might make you wrong for it. They might demonize you for it because they have been trained to do that. It's not personal. It is only reflecting their inability to go to that same level, or their fear of going to that same level. Because a lot of my work with people with the dark feminine, they'll say things like, you know, I'm afraid once I tap into that, how deep that well goes. This is a genuine concern, because when you tap into it, it's like, she's not, like, we're used to women having to show up as perfectionists or as the good girl. There's so many leaves falling on my car right now. The forest here in front of me is like, no more. We're shaking this pattern off. Anyways, the good girl is so like contained, and she is limited in her emotional range, because if you can't be in your good girl and be in your dark feminine at the same time. The two do not fit together. You have to pick one or the other. And so because we're more familiar with the good girl mask collectively, the dark feminine, her emotional bandwidth is like endless. It's like infinite. So the depth of the grief or rage or a million different frequencies that you might feel can be overwhelming. It can be very scary. Like, can I actually handle this range of emotion? You can. You just take it one breath at a time, one day at a time, and we learn how to emotionally regulate ourselves. However, it can be scary, especially if you're someone who is stifled emotionally. I get it. It can be very, very scary. So you're going to see what people's capacity is for growth, because in how they respond to your dark feminine energy. If they make you wrong for it, if they demonize you for it, but also like if you in communication with them, or maybe if there's something that you need to address with them, or even just like, hey, I'm not going to be showing up in a muted way anymore with you. Their response to your ask, their response to your shift in being is going to show you a lot. And again, it doesn't have very much to do with you. Maybe a small percentage of the time it does, but most of the vast majority of the time, it's only about their willingness and their comfort in stepping into that energy themselves. It's going to show you where they're not willing to grow themselves, or where they are not willing to step into discomfort or growth in that way, which also can be really disappointing when it's people close to us. It can be really sad, because it's like, no, I want you to come with me. But we also don't understand people's soul history. You know, we don't know people's soul path. I mean, I do to some degree, but that's only if you sign up for a session with me, right? We don't know the intricacy of why someone is here, what they're meant to be doing, the pace at which they need to go at for their own safety. And one of the things that I've learned is like, you really can't push it. Because I used to be like, no, like with certain people close to me, like, you're actually going to come with me. I'm not going to leave you here, but it's not safe for them. You have to trust that people know the pace at which they can grow at. You are also going to see the patterns that people want to keep you in. This one sucks. This one is really painful, because occasionally when you show up in your dark feminine energy, like I've had this happen with a few friends of mine or a few people in my life, where it's very disappointing, because people benefit from your smallness because they can be small. So for example, if you are still allowing codependency, other people benefit from that. If you're still allowing someone to walk all over you, they are benefiting from that. If you're allowing someone to, like, there's a million different things we could go into here, right? So when you step into your dark feminine, you're automatically going to see if people push back to your boundary or to your new way of being, and they prefer you to be in your smallness. You do not want anybody in your life that wants you to be small. Please, please listen when I say that. You don't want those people in your life. I'm not saying you have to kick everybody out, because some people might over time come with you, or might just accept you and whatever you're stepping into. That's really all that's needed. I guess it depends on the relationship and what the vibe is. But like, you're gonna start to see with some people where it is painful that they prefer you to be small. Get those people out of your life or minimize your contact with them as much as possible, because they're gonna be the people that, like, you're expanding and they're either setting you up for failure, they're clapping at your demise, or this can even be like at a non-malicious level, the people that you're walking forward and they are hanging onto your ankles, dead weight. Look at that light right when I said that, right? You got to separate yourself from that, because you're not going to be able to do what you need to do in your life with that weight on your ankles. And a lot of times this can be hard to let go of, especially if it's people close to you. A lot of the time too, this might show up in your your romantic relationships, which also sucks. So we're going to get, by the way, that I have one more thing I'm going to say, and then the last one is the good part about what to expect when you, like, one thing that's really good about relationally what to expect. So it gets better. Hang on. I just want to give you like a real honest depiction of what to expect. So I already mentioned I have notes here, if you can't tell. I never have notes, but I need to for this because I could go on for 12 hours. So we talked about this a little bit already, but the next point is you're going to mirror people's shackles to them, and they will either love that or hate that based on their consciousness. So for example, I love feedback, not from any Joe Schmo on the planet, but from people I respect. Please tell me where you see me being small. I want to know that. Why? Because it gives me direct data about where I can grow and how I can expand. Of course, I want to be the best version of myself. I want to hear that feedback. I'm not going to take feedback from somebody who's just like bitter and mean, that it's like not going to serve me, or that I don't care about their opinion. But even that being said, if 10 people like that all gave me the same feedback, I would listen. And so when you mirror someone's smallness to them through your bigness, so just as this is a very, very good example. Women who are in their confidence often are deeply triggering to men, but also are deeply triggering sometimes to insecure women. And it's because they don't hold the same amount of confidence, right? So someone who then makes that confident woman bad, she's not willing to see, oh, I'm actually just triggered by this because I feel like I don't have her confidence. Someone who wants to grow is going to say, wow, I'm noticing that I'm triggered by this girl's confidence. It actually has nothing to do with her and everything to do with my own insecurity. If she has that, I can also have it. How can I start to build my confidence? That's the difference. So you're going to be able to tell a lot about someone's consciousness based on how they show up towards that. If they make you wrong for it, again, just know it's not actually personal, even if it really seems like it is. It's just their ego trying to protect them because they're perceiving your larger energy or your more expansive field as a direct threat to them, even though it's not. They're two totally separate things. And they're just not really willing to face off with that yet. And like, that's okay. And like I said, one of the things that I've learned about this is like, it is not personal. It is not about you. But in the beginning, it really seems like it does. So just remember, it's not personal. The last thing is, this isn't the last. This is just what I'm going to share in this video. Every single time that you activate your dark feminine, another layer of your good girl mask is going to dissolve. You will care less what people think. You will stop trying to impress people. You will no longer do anything for validation or approval except from your own. It will all become, am I happy with who I'm being? Am I satisfied with how I'm showing up or with my creation? It won't be about other people's approval or validation. It's about so much about the dark feminine is about self-sourcing everything that we've been taught to export outside of our bodies, outside of ourselves to other people. So instead of, for example, needing approval and validation to feel loved by others, you self-source approval. You self-source your love, so you don't need it from someone else. I'm not saying that you don't then need other people, but I'm saying you're not doing things for the love of someone else because you're doing it because you love yourself. You know what I mean? So the more you integrate your dark feminine, the more the good girl mask is going to dissolve one layer at a time. And it's crazy. The good girl mask is so deeply woven into the fabric of our being, into our societal constructs, into our collective consciousness. Like, you might think you're done. This is why I love archetypal work and why I teach Realm of the Dark Feminine every year, because Realm of the Dark Feminine, we're working with archetypal energies that have a billion layers to them. So every year I do this work alongside you. Any program I create, I act as the facilitator and the creator of it, but I also show up in the group with you, and I'm doing, at least as far as the archetypal work, I'm doing that with you. So every year, for example, when I go into the Muse energy in the Venus temple, I'm finding deeper layers where I have distortion, where I have limiting beliefs, where I have issues. And with the dark feminine, it's like I'm finding areas that I can step into deeper mastery. And with that always comes an aspect of the good girl that is dissolving. And I'm like, wow, there's still another layer there? Like, crazy. Those are some of the things to expect that are kind of painful or that might be not so pleasant. However, one of the best, there's so many benefits to stepping into your dark feminine energy. Like, just as an example, deeper connection to your body. You're going to be self-sourcing approval, validation, love, safety, all of the things we've been taught to keep outside of ourselves, which makes us inherently reliant on systems that are oppressive. So you're going to get so much power back just by being in a space where you're self-sourcing all of those things. So you're going to have a deeper connection to your sexuality, to your sensuality. You're going to have a deeper connection to the earth. You're going to have more of an intuitive awakening. What else? You're going to be more connected to your expression, to your authenticity. You won't stifle shit anymore. You will express yourself, but you'll learn how to do it in a masterful way. We learn how to work with the dark feminine with mastery so she can actually accomplish her mission. That'll be another video I do later. So in addition to all of that, we talked about a lot of relational issues you can expect with people. When you step into your dark feminine later on, like, this will vary. This could be a week later. It could be months later. It could be years later. It probably will be all of the above. You're going to attract people who love you for your fullest, most authentic self and would never dream to ask you to be smaller. They would never dream to ask you to shift yourself. And I want to give a personal example here because, like I said, I was born with certain dark feminine traits out of the womb. And I have always been very sharp. I have always been, I don't care what other people think. I'm going to say what I want to say. And for my whole life, I've been made wrong for that by a certain people, by a lot of people. And they have always said, you're too intense, you're too sharp. Your feedback is like, or what you say hurts me too much, etc. And it's not because it's mean, but it's because it's direct and there's no sugarcoating. There's not a filter on it. And I've learned how to steward that for sure. However, now the friends that I have are like, Allie, that's my favorite part about you. I know that you're never going to bullshit me. That's my favorite part about you. Whereas I have other people in my life or who were in my life before that always made me wrong for that always made me feel bad for that. They didn't see how that was helpful because they weren't willing to see how that was actually a support system for them, you know, and because they weren't able to, just as an example, like my directness or my sharpness, my straightforwardness is a better way to say it. They weren't able to do that same thing because they were too afraid of what other people thought. So they would sugarcoat things, they would filter things, they would say things for approval or to please other people instead of just being authentic and true to themselves. So their like being around me triggered that in them. And so they made me wrong for it. And none of this is conscious. It's all very subconscious. But now I have more people in my life who are like, Allie, I appreciate that about you so much. And I've learned I just can't have people in my life who don't celebrate that part of me or who like would want me to shrink that in any way, who make me wrong for it in any way, because it's an absolute superpower. And when people show up to me with that energy, I'm like, oh my God, I love and value this person so much, because very few people are actually able to show up in that energy. And you'll have something about yourself that is the same. So it might not be around being straightforward. It might be around your sensitivity or around your sexuality or around, I don't know, it could be anything. And these are awarenesses that you have after working with the dark feminine for so long. I never realized what I just said. I thought that it was too much. I was like, oh yeah, I'm too intense. I'm too straightforward. That was never how it actually was. It's just other people's inability to hold that. They projected that onto me, you know? So what will happen when you step into your dark feminine and you are unwilling to make yourself smaller for other people's comfort? That doesn't mean that you don't learn how to steward it in a better way, because it's both. But when you stop making yourself smaller for other people's benefit, you're going to attract people who adore those qualities about you, and it changes your life. It is such a beautiful blessing. You're also going to attract other people in your life who celebrate your expansiveness and your bigness and want you to keep growing. They're never going to be threatened by that, because those are probably going to be people who are doing the same type of work. And I want to give another example here, because there's a lot of people who are deeply in their dark feminine energy. But I would say, and I've definitely been here myself, and this is why I can say this, because if you can spot it, you've got it, right? That phrase. There's a lot of women who are in their dark feminine energy that are in a certain cohort of it, that are in more of an immature embodiment. I will never make those women wrong, because I understand they're in a phase of the dark feminine expression. I understand that they are doing the hard work that comes with that phase, and that it is a necessary part. It's kind of like how people say, if you have a business, if you have your own business, you will never insult other people who are trying to be an entrepreneur. You will never be like, wow, they're being too much, or wow, they're like, if you're trying to be an influencer or something. If you have done something difficult, you will never criticize people who are trying to do the same thing. The only people who criticize are people in these particular lights are the people who haven't done that thing and don't know what it takes. So a lot of people will criticize women who are in their dark feminine energy for being too angry. Well, yeah, when you open up the dark feminine portal, there's an infinite well of collective anger that hasn't been felt. So she's actually feeling some of your anger probably that you haven't processed. Did you say thank you to her? Or are you just criticizing her because she's a little too angry for your good girl? You know, so this is kind of what I'm trying to say. You're going to find those people will dissolve out of your life. Even if there's not like hard endings or there's not big dramatic fallouts, they're going to phase out of your life, because you just won't have availability for that anymore. And you're going to call in people who celebrate that, who honor full expression, who want you to be in your most true version of yourself, and who want you to be in your expansiveness. And those are the people who you are going to step into your highest self with. That's who you want to do life with. And other people, what I found is some people fall out of your life forever. And then other people will come back. They just need a little bit of time. Or there might be a little bit of like recalibration in your relationship, especially with like family members and stuff like that, where you're not just gonna, for some people, they're not gonna kick them out of their life, or they want them to be a part of their life. Like there might just be a little bit of recalibration. But when you step into your dark feminine, you're inherently setting standards of, hey, I'm not going to shrink myself at minimum. I'm not going to shrink myself, but it will look like in this particular way. And then each time we work with her, then there are like 20 billion other iterations of what that looks like in specificity. So anywho, thanks for listening to this whole thing. That's what you can expect when you step into your dark feminine energy. The way that I teach Realm of the Dark Feminine is going to be a more gentle process, because it's sort of like a preventative approach. You're not waiting for the dark feminine within you to come in and shake the shit out of you and flip you upside down. A lot of the time we wait, and the dark goddess will come in, and she's removing shit from your life. She flips you upside down until the change in your pockets falls out. and rearranges everything for you. Sometimes that is a blessing, and sometimes it is because you avoided the work. And so the way that I teach all of my archetypal feminine work and the way I teach Realm of the Dark Feminine is that we are working with this preventatively, so we solve problems before they happen. We shift our embodiment so we don't have to have the huge chaotic upheaval. We allow there to be more effortlessness, and we allow there to be more seamless growth and transition and shifts in our power that we're holding without the dramatic, tumultuous, everything in my life flipped upside down sort of energy, because we can't do that all the time. Most of us have had one or two of those in our lives, but that energy is harsh. That is not nourishing. I'm not saying it's not loving. However, if you keep growing through that harshness, there's a cost to it, and it doesn't always have to be that way. This sort of growth and deepening in ourselves can be a lot more nourishing than a lot of people are making it. And I'm the only person that I know in the world who is teaching, like genuinely, who is teaching the dark feminine from the space of integrity and mastery, not from the shadow dark feminine, which is what most people are teaching, or the wounded dark feminine, but from a space of who she is in her fullness. And most people who are teaching in the collective, and this isn't to bash them, it's saying we're able to go deeper. We have evolved, but most of the teachings about the dark feminine haven't evolved. And so I teach her in her most evolved state as an oracle, as a seer. I'm connecting in with her through structural ways of learning with her that are easier on our system, that will support you in your highest expansion and your highest mastery and your highest integrity. So with that said, Evolution of the Dark Feminine Masterclass, August 17th. It's a Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can come for free. There will be a replay for a few days for free, but come live. It's so much better when you come live. You'll be more present. You'll receive more. And I think that it's always better to receive Akashic Journeys live if you can. But if you literally can't come, and you have a good reason, in quotes, just kidding, then there will be a replay that you can watch for a few days for free afterwards. After that, it'll be $33 probably. And Realm of the Dark Feminine starts September 1st. It's a 3-month program, a live small group experience. You're going to make friends here. You're going to get really deep and intimate with people who are willing to do work on this same level as you. So it's incredibly potent. It's incredibly transformative. And you can keep it forever and continue to do the archetypal work. And so many of my students do. And I'll get messages like, oh, Allie, I found like they haven't been in the program for 2 or 3 years, and they're still working with the archetypes, letting me know what they're growing through this year. And it's like, wow, look at how much you've shifted in 3 years from these small shifts that didn't uproot your life, that were small changes, but they infiltrate and they ripple out into every aspect of your life to just make you more authentically you in your relationships, in your career, in in every single area of life, your health, your vitality, your life force energy, your sensuality, your sexuality, everything. So I would love to see you there. Yeah, that's it. You can find the link in the comments. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like the video. That helps more people find it. Leave a comment. Let me know what you enjoyed or anything that you want to share. Ask a question or add anything to this topic. And of course, subscribe if you want more videos like this. I teach a lot about the dark feminine and all of the archetypal aspects of the matriarchal feminine, as well as, like I said, soul mission. I also do Akashic record readings. So you can also hire me for a single session, a package, or for longer term mentorship. So that's all on my website. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video, and have a beautiful rest of your day, life, eternity, etc.